Section 1. The list that was supposed to save. What? And you notice your to-do list getting longer lately? Not just longer on paper, but heavier in your head, heavier in a way you can feel before you even look at it, heavier in a way that follows you into the morning before your feet even touch the floor. You wake up, and before you stretch, before you sit up, before you even fully open your eyes, there's already a feeling, a quiet sense that you're behind, and you don't even need to check anything to know. Why? Because somewhere in the back of your mind, you remember the list you carefully wrote, the list you believed would finally bring some order into your life, the list that was supposed to make things clearer, lighter, more manageable, the list that was supposed to help you feel in control. Again, and yet somehow, it has done the opposite. It has made everything feel more crowded, more tense, more overwhelming, almost suffocating at times. Let's go back to Sunday night for a moment, because that's usually where it all begins. Sunday night has a very specific feeling, doesn't it? A mix of quiet and pressure, a little bit of reflection, a little bit of hope. Maybe the house is calmer. Maybe you've just finished dinner. Maybe you're sitting with a cup of coffee or tea or just your phone in your hand, scrolling slowly, or maybe it's late at night when everything finally goes quiet and you tell yourself, all right, this week will be different. This is the week you finally get things together, the week you catch up, the week you stop feeling behind. So you open your notebook or your notes app and you start writing, go to the gym 5 times, finish that big project at work, reply to all emails, read 100 pages, meal prep for the week, call your parents, clean the house, organize your files, plan your future. And as you write, it feels good. It really does. There's a sense of control in that moment, even though nothing has been done yet. Even though your situation hasn't changed, it still feels like progress. Because while you're writing, you're imagining, you're picturing a version of yourself, the version who actually does all these things, the version who wakes up early, follows through, stays consistent, focused, disciplined, on track. And with each task you write down, you're not just planning your week, you're building a story about who you're about to become. And that story feels powerful, it feels motivating, it feels like you're finally stepping into something better. But then Monday comes and reality doesn't follow your script. The alarm rings and you feel more tired than you expected. You hit snooze once, maybe twice. You get up, but not with the energy you imagined. Traffic is heavier than usual, or maybe your commute is just longer than it feels like it should be. You sit at your desk, and before you even begin your own work, there's already something waiting. A message, an email, a request, a small problem that wasn't part of your plan. A meeting runs longer than expected. Someone needs something quick from you. That turns into 30 minutes, and suddenly the clean, perfect plan you created on Sunday night starts to crack. You tell yourself, it's okay. I'll catch up tomorrow. I'll adjust. I'll just push a little harder. But then Tuesday comes and something else shifts. An email pulls you into something you didn't plan. A task takes twice as long as you thought it would by the afternoon. Your energy dips. You feel it in your body. You feel it in your focus. The gym doesn't happen again. You tell yourself, I'll go tomorrow. And somewhere in the middle of all of that, something subtle begins to change. The list that once felt motivating starts to feel heavy. You look at it. And instead of feeling inspired, you feel a bit tense. Because now every unchecked box isn't just a task. It's a reminder. A reminder of what you haven't done. A reminder of what you said you would do. A reminder of the gap between who you are right now and who you thought you'd be this week. By Wednesday, something else shows up. Guilt. Not loud, not dramatic. Just there are quiet, constant. You open your list, and it doesn't feel like a tool anymore. It feels like judgment. The words on the page haven't changed, but the feeling behind them has finished the project. Doesn't feel like direction anymore. It feels like pressure. go to the gym. Doesn't feel like a healthy goal. It feels like something you failed to do. And this is where it becomes dangerous because now it's not just about falling behind on tasks. You start to feel like you're falling behind as a person. You start asking yourself questions you don't like. Why can't I keep up? Why do I always do this? Why do I start strong and then fall off? And slowly, that motivation you felt on Sunday night turns into something else. Anxiety, avoidance, exhaustion. You start avoiding the list that you don't open it as often. You glance at it, then close it because every time you see it, it reminds you of what you didn't do. And instead of helping you move forward, it keeps you stuck. This is the part almost no one talks about. The emotional cost of a to-do list, because on the surface, it looks helpful, organized, responsible, productive, but underneath, it's quietly shaping how you see yourself. Every unchecked task sends a small signal. You didn't do enough. You're behind. You're not keeping up. You're not the person you thought you'd be. And when those signals repeat, day after day, week after week, they don't stay small, they start to build. They turn into a story, not about your schedule, but about your identity, in that story. Feels heavy, heavier than the list itself, because now it's not just about tasks, it's about self-worth, and that's where the real problem begins. Section 2, WA. Your brain rejects the you, terrorist. Let's slow this down for a moment, because what's happening here isn't random, It's not that you suddenly lost discipline. It's not that. Something is wrong with your personality. It goes deeper than that. It has to do with how your brain actually works. Your brain doesn't look at your to-do list the way you think it does. It doesn't see it as neutral. It doesn't calmly register it as just a list. It feels it. Every item on that list carries weight. Not just physical effort, but emotional pressure. When you write down 10 tasks, your brain doesn't say, okay, 10 simple things. It senses the total demand, the total effort, the total expectation, all at once, and that creates tension because your brain is always trying to manage. Energy, it's always trying to avoid overload, always trying to protect you from feeling overwhelmed, So when it sees a long list, it doesn't get excited, but it gets cautious, It starts looking for relief, And that's why something strange happens. You look at your list, and instead of starting, you hesitate, you pause. Sometimes you freeze, or you suddenly feel the urge to check your phone or get a snack or do something small and easy. It's not because you don't care. It's not because you're lazy. It's because your brain is trying to regulate pressure. Now add another layer to this time, got most to do. Lists are built on imagined time. You guess how long things will take. You assume how much energy you'll have. You imagine your day going a certain way. But real life doesn't follow that plan. Tasks take longer. Energy goes up and down. Unexpected. Things show up. People interrupt. Things break. Plans shift. And when that happens, your list doesn't change. It stays the same. Fixed. Rigid. Unforgiving. So now you're not just dealing with tasks. You're dealing with broken expectations. And broken expectations create frustration because it feels like you're failing, even though the plan itself wasn't realistic to begin with. And then there's something even deeper. Your brain craves completion. It wants things finished. It wants closure. That's why checking off a box feels good. That small moment, that little tick, it gives you a sense of relief, a sense of progress. But here's the problem. If your list is too long, if it's overloaded, if it's built for a perfect version of your day, you rarely finish it, which means your brain rarely gets that feeling of closure. Instead, it gets the opposite. Open loops, unfinished tasks, things still hanging in air. And those don't just disappear. They stay in your mind. They create background noise, quiet mental pressure that doesn't fully go away. Even when you're not working, even when you're sitting down to rest. Part of your mind is still carrying it, still reminding you, still holding on to it. And over time, a pattern forms. You start associating your to-do list with stress dot, with pressure dot, with failure dot. So naturally, you begin to avoid it, not on purpose, not consciously, but emotionally dot, you delay looking at it. You put off starting. You look for easier wins somewhere else because your brain is trying to protect you from discomfort, and that's the trap. The more you rely on the list, the more overwhelmed you feel dot, and the more overwhelmed you feel, the less you actually do dot. It becomes a loop, a quiet loop that repeats again and again. Dot plan too. Much. Fall short dot, feel guilty dot, avoid dot, repeat dot. And from the outside, it looks like you're doing everything. Right. You're organized. You're trying. You're responsible. But inside, it feels very different. Inside, it feels like you're always behind dot, always catching up dot, always letting yourself down dot. So the problem isn't that you have a list dot. The problem is how that list interacts with your mind, how it turns intention into pressure, how it turns plans into expectations, how it turns unfinished tasks into emotional weight dot. And once you see that clearly, once you understand that it's not about effort, but about design, you can start to try something different, something that works with your brain instead of against it. Section 3, the done list and the quiet. Shift that changes, EVRYT, ING and now hints begin to shift. Not in a big, dramatic way dot, not with a complicated system, but with something small dot, so small, it almost feels too simple dot, almost like it shouldn't make a difference, and yet it changes everything. Instead of writing down what you plan to do, you start writing down what you've already done. That's it. That's the idea dot. It might feel strange at first because you've been taught to plan ahead dot, to organize your future dot, to stay on top of what's coming next. But this asks you to do the opposite dot, to focus on what's real dot, what has already happened, what you've already completed dot. This is called a done list. And at first, it feels unfamiliar. You start your day with a blank page dot, no pressure dot, no expectations dot, no long list staring back at you dot, just space, quiet space dot, and then your day begins. You make your bed, you write it down, you answer an email, you write it down, you drink a glass of water dot, you write it down, you finish a small task you've been putting off, you write it down. Each action, no matter how small, gets recorded dot, and slowly something begins to shift. Each time you write something down, you feel a small sense of completion, a quiet signal that says, I did something, I moved forward. And that matters more than it seems, because your brain responds to completion dot, it responds to progress, even tiny progress. That simple act of writing down what you've done creates a small reward, a moment of satisfaction, and those moments start to stack. Let's go back to Sarah, a freelance writer. Her days used to be controlled by a long, heavy list dot, write 3,000 words, pitch 5 clients dot, update portfolio, research, ideas. Every morning, she would look at that list and feel the weight of it dot, and most days, she would only complete 1 or 2 things, which meant every evening ended the same way dot, with disappointment dot, with that quiet feeling of, I didn't do enough. But when she switched to a done list, everything changed dot, not her workload, not her responsibilities dot, just her experience. She started her day with nothing written. She sat down and worked for 25 minutes. Then she paused and wrote 400 words. That one line felt small, but it felt real dot. It wasn't a plan dot, it was proof. Then she sent one pitch. She wrote that down. Then she made a phone call she'd been avoiding. She wrote that down dot. By the end of the day, her page was full dot, not with expectations, but with evidence that she showed up, evidence that she moved forward, evidence that she did more than she thought, and that changed how she felt. Instead of ending the day with guilt, she ended it with recognition dot, instead of focusing on what was missing. She saw what was there, and that shift rebuilt her motivation, not through pressure, but through encouragement dot, because now every action felt like a win, even the small ones, especially the small ones dot, over time. Those small wins created momentum dot. She started doing more, not because she forced herself, but because she felt capable. She felt like progress was happening and she wanted to keep going. That's the power of a done list dot. It works with your brain dot. It replaces pressure with progress, guilt with recognition, expectation with reality, and most importantly, it creates a positive loop. You do something, you write it down, you feel good dot, so you do something else dot, and that loop continues dot, quietly dot, steadily dot, without resistance dot. So here's something simple you can try. For 1 week dot, just 1 week. Set your to-do. List aside dot, not forever dot, just for now dot, start each day with a blank page dot. And as your day unfolds, write down what you actually do. Don't judge it. Don't compare it. Don't just notice it dot at the end of the day. Look at that page dot, really look at it dot, because chances are you did more than you realized. And more importantly, you'll feel it, that quiet sense of progress, that steady feeling of moving forward. That's what's been missing. Not more tasks, not more pressure, but a way to see yourself clearly dot, to see your effort, your consistency, your movement dot. And once you can see that, everything starts to change. Not all at once dot, not overnight, but little by little dot, in a way that feels real dot. And this time it lasts.